right, just a few moments, we'll get started. We just want to remind everybody the chat window is the preferred way to send some questions if you have access to a computer. As the discussion unfolds, please feel free to throw anything in the chat window. We'll try and answer all of your questions appropriately. If we don't have an answer to your question, then we can follow up with you after the discussion and see if we can find a way to get that for you. Hopefully, though, we can answer all of your questions in this format, and we look forward to having the opportunity to speak around the subject matter and then to some of you through the questions. So thanks for joining today. Ross, Lou, if you're good, we'll get started.
We're good.
All right.
We're ready.
Well, this is the third in a series of webinars that we have done with our partner Mactac. We have had a very good turnout. Thank you all for those of you that have joined the previous two, or at least one of the previous two. We certainly appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you. We have a special guest today. We wanted to do a little bit of a different format for this one. The past two have been very informational and very instructional in some areas, but we felt that it would be a little bit more appropriate to kind of wrap up our series here with a sign shop owner that actually has some experience doing the applications and using the equipment that we talked about in the past two webinars, and then we would like to provide some perspective on how the business owners are taking this situation, how they're adjusting their practices and the things that they're doing to not only run their businesses efficiently, but also to make sure that they're being safe and that their employees are safe and that their customers are safe. So that being said, we've invited Repros from Ohio to join us today, and we've got special guest Lou Guardia on the line with us. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Before we begin, I just want to do a couple quick introductions on the Mimaki and the Mactac side. We'll let Lisa on our team kind of manage the slides here, and we'll go through the thing. So once again, thanks for joining us. So let's do a couple quick introductions of the companies here. So my name is Michael Maxwell. I'm the senior manager for the strategic development group here at Mimaki USA. We are a focused wide format company. We manufacture printers, inks, and software for the wide format industry, printing industry, as well as cutting devices and all the accessories that go along with it. And many of you have either used our equipment before or have exposure to our equipment in the printing realm. So we appreciate all of you being part of this today. And then we've got Ross Burnham here from Mactac. Ross, let you talk a little bit about your company.
Yes, I'm Ross Burnham. I'm with Mactac. I'm the senior marketing manager for the distribution products group at Mactac. Mactac is about a $350 million a year pressure sensitive adhesives company focusing on materials for the print industry. Our customers include flexographic roll label printers. They include sheet fed offset and digital presses, whether it's toner fusion or indigo. Have a broad range of products for industrial mounting adhesives, and what we're talking about today in our wide format category for pressure sensitive media, laminates, mounting adhesives, and colored vinyl. I've been with Mactac for about 19 years in various assignments and happen to know Lou very well as well. And want to say thank you very much to Michael and Lisa for including Mactac in this series of events. It's been really, really fun to work with you guys. Mactac is part of the Lintec Corporation, a $2 billion global pressure sensitive company, and we are headquartered in Stowe, Ohio, which is where I am right now. I'm in my son's bedroom. I have been for the last 6 weeks in my office. Our manufacturing facilities are open, but a lot of our cross-functional teams have been working from their homes during the last 6 weeks on the coronavirus situation. So thank you again for allowing us to participate in this, and we look forward to a good dialogue, and hopefully our customers can take away some good information from our time together.
Awesome. And then our special guest today, Lou Guardia from Repros Inc. Lou, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, my company Repros, we have 4 locations. I'm in our Cleveland main production facility right now in my office, and production-wise, we have all the equipment from the entry-level equipment, and we've had JB3s and other great products like that in there, and then we have also the mid-range and industrial printers as well. And Ross and I have been working on a lot of different products to create some standard things that our customers use for, especially floors, which seems to be a big part of what we're doing, as well as windows and walls to message out things around the current situation. My 2 brothers are partners with me, and although I'm in charge of operations, I do plenty of sales and finance sides as well. So Ross asked me to get on board and answer questions where I could, since we've been although we've been open the entire time for a few clients that have high profile needs, we haven't fully opened to the public yet, but we are running almost full staff at this point.
Excellent. Like Lou, many of you are out there trying to either figure out how to adjust your business practices or to make sure that your situation is as effective as possible while managing through the situation. This discussion today is meant to be a perspective of best practices as it's viewed from our viewpoint. We still encourage you to consult your local, state, and federal guidelines for any specific guidance in your area. We are experts in the printing field. We are not experts in the medical field. So any of the perspective that we're providing is based on the information that we've been provided through the various federal and state guidelines. And it's based on what we have interpreted and that what we feel is going to be the best and safest way for us to manage our businesses. So I speak from the Mimaki side in that we have social distancing practices in place. We have adjusted schedules to make sure that our employees are not always at the same place at the same time. So we're doing everything that we can to keep our families safe on our end. And I think that Mactac and also Repros are doing the same thing, but I'll let them speak to their perspective. But again, this is meant to be basically a perspective of this and some ideas of how we're interpreting things. But you should always visit the federal and local websites for detailed information as it pertains to either your city or your state. So that being said, Ross, maybe you can shed a little bit of light on what you're doing on your end for
Sure.
distancing.
So for the office locations here in Stowe, which is the North American headquarters, towards the end of March, we were asked to figure out how to work from our homes in regards to working with our IT group and our staff to be able to understand what was going to be required. Before this all happened, I was not very good at utilizing the web cameras and the internet and doing the things that we've been doing. All of a sudden, I'm helping other people figure it out. So the technology, thank goodness, has allowed us to keep in contact with our customers, with our team members, and keep us focused on the events and how can we help everybody through this current situation. So whether it's our finance team, our customer service, our sales, our marketing, accounts payable, all of our team members are working from their homes, not from our office. We've been told that we will be able to come back on a staggered schedule starting in the second week of May, and look forward to that, but it's going to be a little bit different in that we're all going to be required to be wearing masks to cover our mouth and nose, and there is a definite 6-foot distance rule for everybody that's at the office. Our manufacturing facilities are far ahead of this already, as they have been adapting to the current situation since the very beginning. And fortunately, I'm happy to say that we really have not had any lost time or any instances of our team members being affected by this. There's been a lot of disinfecting, there's been a lot of best practices, there's been a lot of process mapping in regards to situations of team members, and if somebody does get ill, what the other team members are going to be doing. So a lot of work has been done to process map how things are done in the plant, as well as if something happens, what are they going to do? So it's very encouraging. And we have been putting out a record number of material in the marketplace for customers for their label and white format needs, as we'll be talking about today. So that's just a quick perspective from the manufacturing side of the media, laminates, and mounting adhesive material.
And then Lou, on your end, you've obviously, as a business owner that's utilizing the materials and the machines that we manufacture, you've had to adjust your practices as well. What have you done to kind of adjust for this?
Yeah, well, we started by really trying to look at our operation and create ways to create the social distancing required. Since you're constantly cramming a lot of equipment into a small space, if you're in this business, it's hard to figure out how do you traffic people through the operation, how do you keep people so that they have safe space to operate in. So we did a lot of graphics on the ground just to basically define workspaces, and we did there's a blog on our website about how we did that. But we've I just wrote an entire set of documents on to my entire employee base on installers, how to handle situations, whether they're here at one of my 4 facilities or whether they're customer facilities. I have service technicians. I have people inside production environments that are totally operations oriented, so they're not customer facing. And the state of Ohio just put together some rules that allow some flexibility there for the face masks, which has been a big thing here. But then we're requiring it for anyone that's customer facing, anyone running a forklift, anyone that's dealing directly with the customer. So, and then we also go across the border into Pennsylvania where they're just required. If our people go to Pennsylvania, you just have to wear a face mask. It's not an option like it is here. But we've also used we've been testing a lot of different things for carpet, for floors, and for walls to see and to mock up concepts for customers to get things done. So the social distancing, typical things you see everywhere with the 6-foot spacing, the dividing workspaces to put in front of doors where only one person is allowed in, or closing conference rooms. We put closed graphics in front of those. We've been doing a lot of things with communications on our doors, and our customers are buying the same thing to communicate. How do you get a hold of somebody inside this building if the doors are locked? And where do you call? And what is the expectations from that perspective? And then marketing is starting to become very big as companies will really start opening on Monday in Ohio. So a lot of our customers and even us are looking at marketing options to do that. And there's some examples of some of the things we've done here on the screen now.
Yeah, so to that point, the past couple of webinars that we've done, we kind of focused in on these specific applications, and I think we've all seen these all over the internet. But as a business owner, there are a couple of things that you probably need to take into consideration before you produce these, and some things that you need to consider before you go out. Based on what you just provided, that's what you're doing for your business itself. What are you doing not only for the preparedness of the production piece of this, but also if you have to go do an install, what are some things that our audience should take into consideration?
Well, in install, we try to drive people for installs to bring vehicles to our location where we have more control over the environment. We don't have customers in there, and then we can work in such a way that there's plenty of social distance. Anytime they're at a customer location, we've provided masks and gloves in case they need those for doing their work. Anytime they're on a lift where you can't be 6 feet apart, they're required to wear gloves and mask. In that kind of situation, we've strongly encouraged, unless there's a really unique reason, to not be in the same vehicle, to drive in separate vehicles. There's a lot of discussions about what that is, but it should be the exception rather than the rule for us from the production perspective. So those are the main things that we addressed with them. And then whatever the customer's rules are, you're to follow those rules. And there's no exceptions from that standpoint. And then also to communicate to me or one of my brothers that runs kind of the install side to say, if there's something you're concerned about, don't take chances. Call us. Let's talk about it. So a lot of open communication with the teams to talk to management if there is concerns.
Would you agree that these applications here are some of the most requested from your perspective?
Oh yeah, I mean it's all spacing and create. That's the majority. There is a lot of people with open now. It's amazing with companies here now. Almost everyone puts 10-yard signs in front of their business to let them know they're open. Obviously, somebody started with 1, then they had 2. Now you get 10 out of a sheet, so now they have 10 in their front yard, and it's guerrilla marketing probably at the the craziest. But we're doing a lot of fence mesh and a lot of fence banner and things like that, just as part of the marketing and reopening. A lot of people are using for communications at their doors. Everyone started with just taping in 8.5 by 11 on the inside of the door, and we're seeing people wanting bigger signs, so as people drive up, they can read, call this number to pick something up, or call this number to get in. So it just makes it easier for the customers to communicate from that standpoint. So that's been the majority of what we've been seeing lately. I mean, there's odds and ends things, but that's probably the lion's share of what's going on now. I think I bought almost all of Ross's. One of his SKUs of floor graphics is out for a few days.
It's okay. We'll make more. It's all right.
I know. And that gets to a point. I mean, really, with floor graphic materials and different things like that, we're buying much larger quantities to put them on the shelf, because you get one opportunity and everybody's in a hurry, and if you don't have it on the shelf, it goes to the next person. So stocking on key SKUs of adhesive vinyl products and floor graphic laminates is, I mean, we're buying 10 and 12 rolls at a time, where usually we'd have 1 or 2 on the shelf and just count on Ross getting it through distribution in a day or 2. So you just have to have it. I had a customer who wanted me to do acrylic sneeze guards, and 3 of my suppliers were 3 to 4 months out, or 3 to 4 weeks out, and getting stock. So if you don't have it, you can't do it. And a lot of the people are just buying substantial stocks just to put that on their shelf. And we're using it all and testing it all too, to try to see, because there's so many choices. And you have cement floors in my office. I have cement painted, I have cement unpainted, I have adhesive vinyl on the floors, I have tile, I have carpet, I have AstroTurf, and I'm sticking everything on all of them just to try to understand what works best. I've created an entire set of samples of every type of adhesive, just so I can send it out to bigger customer projects so they can do the testing. Because one of my customers I just spoke to this morning said no one's allowed in our buildings. I said, "Are you?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'll send you a set and you stick them wherever you want and see what you think. If you're in question, try these." And that's been a good thing, because it's almost always turned into fairly substantial orders.
Well, and a big part of our communication with Lou and his team, which is typical of what we do with our print service provider customers, is to let them make them aware of the good, better, best platforms and material that we have, as well as the functionality of the specific media and the adhesive for the different applications that Lou was just mentioning. So we have a material that works very well for carpet. We have a material that works very well for tile and high surface energy floor applications that will be easily removed. If something is out, we have the conversation in regards to what might be considered or looked at as an alternative. It's not one size fits all. In a perfect environment, you have a good, better, best, and you're always looking for the right application for the lowest price. In some cases, if that shelf is empty somewhere, there's going to be another alternative. So working with the manufacturer like Mactac, you can basically have that conversation to be able to find more options in your situation.
Yeah, and I mean, on our end, we're seeing a lot more ink. Obviously, we have seen some equipment sales, but to that point, I mean, Lou, you guys are keeping a considerable amount of inventory for materials, and as luck would have it with your shop, for this discussion, you are a multiple machine, multiple ink type shop as well. So you have experience in several different areas. Are you keeping more ink on the shelf as well as you move through this, compared to where you were just a few months ago, or are you just managing it the way that you were managing it before?
Oh, sure, because we get paid to put ink on stuff. So Ross sells stuff and you sell ink, so I need all that stuff, you know, available for you know, for these busy times. And the other thing is that we used to be a little bit more flexible to send work out. And one of the things we realized when the sales were down for a while, and as it's going right now, you're hitting, you know, there's no real event and trade show and sporting kind of graphics being done. So although you're busy with certain things, you're not busy across the board. So it becomes more and more important to understand and to utilize cost of goods sold and produce everything in-house that's humanly possible. We might have sent larger projects to partners if we were particularly busy, but now we're just trying to figure out how to keep that in-house because, you know, I mean, I was at an event about 6 months or maybe a year ago, and I was talking to a smaller shop that had stopped using their printer because they were buying 84 cents a square foot banner on the open market. And he was doubling his money and he was happy, and I guess that's okay and all. But, you know, the problem is more and more companies are figuring out how to buy that, you know, $1 a square foot banner online. And where you might be able to produce, you know, buy something for 84 cents that's done, you can still produce that thing on, you know, a Mimaki with banner material. Let's say it's a banner for, you know, maybe 40 cents a square or something like that, waste maybe 45. So you can very easily, you know, substantially put more money to your bottom line to pay for your people, to pay for overhead and things like that, which when you send it out, your part of that money is going towards that company's overhead. Not that you shouldn't send us all the printing you want, but we do a lot of wholesale. But the reality is just in this time, you want to make put as much of that dollar per square foot in your own pocket as possible. So I think a lot of companies are going to be buying ink and restarting machines that maybe they haven't used just to keep as much of that sale dollar in their pocket.
Yeah, it's been interesting on our end. We manufactured just about every single ink that's available in the wide format space. We're a kind of a unique company in that we manufacture the equipment, all the inks for that equipment, and the software as well. So from that perspective, we have a lot of customers that are calling in and asking what's the best ink to use for certain applications. Wouldn't you agree that it's probably a really good practice to speak with the printer manufacturer and the material manufacturer and find a good balance there, and then do some testing in your own facility prior to sending jobs out? That way you don't have a lot of returns.
Sure, that's critical, and that's why we've always, at the shows, when they used to have shows, and, you know, even, you know, talking through the channel, I mean, all the suppliers have been good to, you know, let us talk to people like Ross and people at our equipment suppliers like Mimaki to be able to talk about, you know, different things that are available that can help us. So communication with the manufacturers and through the channel is critical to making sure that you're able to understand what you're getting into, and then testing it. I mean, testing something that you let cure for 4 hours and 8 hours to see what happens. You know, are you putting a little, you know, the proper amount of ink on a particular print so that you can laminate and get it turned out as quickly as possible? Because now more than ever, I mean, we have businesses opening tomorrow and businesses opening Monday. And, you know, I have people that gave me orders this morning that want it today so they can put it up tomorrow. And more want it, you know, how quick can you turn this? I need some, you know, 100 of these tomorrow and 200 on Monday. And unfortunately, everyone is opening tomorrow and Monday, so everyone wants those same dates. So it gets a little bit tricky from that standpoint. But communications with the channels and the manufacturers is critical to try to understand what these challenges are and to try different things.
Yeah, I mean, and on our end, you know, obviously we're manufacturing equipment and inks and everything else to continue to supply. We'll continue to bring those in to support you. On the Mactac side, you know, with the amount of people that are printing right now, obviously the ink is a big part of it. But Ross, how are you guys handling the overhead of additional production with everything?
We've been good. Our supply chain team has done a great job in keeping much of the A items in the wide format category in stock. So every once in a while we'll have a large order that will take a slug of material, and then we're back in manufacturing to replenish. But again, that's where the communication of if we are out of one item, there definitely is a possibility that there's another item that will work as good as the first one, but maybe might be a couple pennies a square foot more expensive. But when you're looking to fulfill a demand that we're starting to see with companies reopening, then that's probably going to be okay in this environment.
Yeah, on the printer side, we know there's no one size fits all solution for us as well. We manufacture solvent machines, UV curable, dye sub, you name it. Latex is even in there. Lou, from your perspective, because you have multiple technologies and multiple inks, how beneficial has that been to your shop to be able to switch and choose and have that flexibility?
Well, the key thing we find is that there's always certain materials that run on certain machines better than others. And we'll have a particular machine and there's these 4 particular materials. Like I have one machine that just doesn't print street wrap very well. And I don't know why. So we don't worry about it. We just print it on the other machine where it does work. And then we have some materials that run on all the machines well, like Rebel or something like that, where you can always move it around. So it's always good to have a lot of options just from that standpoint. So that's what we find.
Well, that's been one of the key areas in our product design, is coming up with materials that are multi-print medias, whether they're solvent, latex, UV gel, flatbed, and some of the products that Lou is referencing are designed for that. So that helps out with cash flow, that you don't have one roll tied to one machine for one application only. So that's one of the key things that we're trying to do in the market.
Another thing we've done with testing is making sure that, like I just did some 6-inch, 12-inch, and 24-inch circles and sent them to my father's house to put on carpet for him to see how hard is it for somebody who never does installs to install things.
Great point.
Because most of the stuff we're sending out now is self-installed. So as much as you could just hand it to your, 3M certified, Mactac certified installer that does, 10 vehicles a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the person. That's not the guy running the fryer and has to go put a whole bunch of 6, social distancing signs out by the door. So you want to get your people who have the least experience with putting stuff on the ground to go put it on the ground and see what happens, or put it on the wall and try the different materials so that you can either figure out better ways to explain how to do it, or, move away from things that just are a problem. That, you don't want to send it to your customer and then they, stick the adhesive together and then it's garbage, or put it down and there's a wrinkle in it or something like that. So it's important to, use your staff too, especially the people that have never done installs, to try to install things, because that's what's going to happen with your customers.
So to that point, assuming that you are not going to send out, but let's assume maybe you do send somebody, what are some of the best tools, and what should your team and maybe your customers be prepared to have on hand in order to do the installation properly? What are some of the most important things from your perspective?
When our people are going out, they always have masks and gloves, and they have isopropyl alcohol, which is the one-stop shop for killing everything, mm-hmm. and cleaning everything. But when we're putting it on the floor, it's basically just floor cleaning and a vacuum sweeper and things like that. Because almost everything we're selling right now is totally self-installable. No, I'm not doing many wall graphics. Our vehicle fleet graphics are, I think I've probably done 3 rolls of fleet in the last, month. So, most everything we're trying to figure out is how to do that, so that people can do it. But there, every once in a while, we've done some things where they're, building, the construction industry is still busy, so we have to send 2 people out. I know the pictures there of the guys putting up a graphic on a boat in Cleveland, and they had to be next to each other. If that was the situation now, they'd both be wearing masks and gloves to be, in good situations. But we haven't really run into a lot of situations where we need to do the installs. We have done some things with training where we've had a maintenance department talk to our installers, set up kind of like a conference like this, just to be able to communicate and talk about how they would do things. That can be a very good way to do it. And then also you can have sales on too and things like that to communicate. And we haven't done a lot of those, but there have been a couple of those we've done just to try to help them understand.
Yeah, I mean, on our end, we've had virtual demonstrations or virtual technical calls with customers that had questions about best practice, like if they were trying to do a maybe their shop shut down for a week just because they're trying to manage their cash flow. You know, what's the best way for them to prepare their machine for a week long shutdown? And we can do a video conference with them and kind of manage through that. So that's a great tool there. So kind of getting into some of the questions that we're seeing pop up here in the chat window. If you do send your teams out into the field, or when your teams come in or customers come in, one of the questions that popped up in the chat windows: are you taking temperatures for staffs or guests as they're coming in? I know in the Atlanta market, we've been required to take temperatures of our employees as they're coming in the morning. Is that the same in your area, or is that a practice that you're doing when your teams are out in the field?
At our operation, everyone's required every morning to send my brother their temperature. I just sent a message out on that. We do have kind of forehead thermometers at each of our production facilities where we can check things out or check people out if they don't have one, because it's amazing how few people or how many people don't have a thermometer. But we just track it every day in the morning.
And are you preparing your teams?
And then for Mactac,
I'm sorry.
And from the Mactac perspective, that's also what's happening in our operations plants, that the team members are required to take their temperatures prior to coming in. If they are running a fever, they're staying home. Also, when we go back in our offices the second week of May, we've also been asked to take our temperature before coming in as well.
Okay. In our facility, we've got obviously it's easy for us, right? We can print it. We have access to the equipment. We've got signage up that shows where congregating areas are closed, like break rooms and things like that. But in the field, and I know you mentioned that you're not going out in the field as much. A lot of it's self-installable. But in the field, if you have to go out and do an install, are there any things that your teams have to have on their truck to prepare any bystanders or people that are walking through those retail, like a grocery store, for example, to let them know this is an area that's kind of cordoned off for an install? Or are you preparing your teams for that, Lou?
We have, Sinocates like there. We make a Sinocate out of 10 mil chloroplast that's 5 or 6 feet tall that we've used from time to time. Mm-hmm. We've done some interlocking things with 10 mil chloroplast to be able to make work areas, to close off areas. We honestly haven't found a lot of those situations at this point. But I mean, we have a lot of companies that have come to us and ask about those type of things because they're working in, stores and have to do work, as they're going on, and they need to shut down areas they're working from to keep space. So, and we do require all of our service techs or our installers or salespeople, if they go out on behalf of the company, to call in and their temperature every morning. So we have an entire spreadsheet, so we know that if you're leaving, you got to let us know, so we have a track on that.
Gotcha. And I got this. This other question that came up was, how often are we disinfecting our facilities? On the Mimaki side, I mean, we're mostly working from home, so the disinfectant of our facility isn't as critical, I guess, on the office side. On the manufacturing side, though, we do have mechanisms in place to wipe down high traffic areas and pieces of equipment that are used by multiple people throughout the day. Ross, I would imagine that you guys have the same practices on your end.
We do. I mean, I think what we're hearing is there is a commonality on the platform of how operations are keeping their facilities clean. So I'm assuming that this is coming from CDC guidelines and some other resources that are available to different companies.
Yeah,
we do. I mean, we've done some things just to streamline things. We have gloves in the kitchen. Only one person's allowed in, and only one person makes coffee. But you have to use gloves anytime you're using the microwave or the refrigerator or pouring coffee. Everything's disposable. We have all the drinking fountains closed. Bathrooms have the lights on and the doors open when nobody's in there, and you're required to clean the bathroom if you go and use it. All the surfaces. We have certain people cleaning surfaces several times a day. going through common areas that, people are handing things back and forth. We spray down our job jackets with a disinfectant spray anytime they come back through to clean them. Lots of people using gloves when they're handing things back and forth. But I was on a call yesterday with HR people in the area, and there was a company that was spending $1,000 a week to electrostatic fog their 100,000 square foot building every week to kill anything that might be there. So there's a lot of different people doing different things, but I think cleaning surfaces is the core surfaces, your own area with keyboards and things is, what's your job and what's the person who's in charge of cleaning his job for each shift. You've kind of defined that more.
Yeah, it's interesting how the situation has made us be more aware of cleanly habits. It's also interesting that to your point earlier, the disposable piece. There's been a huge movement for multi-use water bottles and things like that, but obviously disposable stuff is probably a safer bet right now, like coffee cups and things like that in your high traffic areas like your break rooms. So that's been interesting. The equipment that you have, obviously you're maintaining that, you're keeping it going. We always have kind of a saying on our end, the more productive the equipment is, the less you're going to end up doing the heavy maintenance on it just because it's running, and inkjet printers like to run. Has the situation with the higher productivity in certain areas affected your maintenance schedule on your equipment significantly, or has it given you an opportunity to kind of keep them running and not have to worry about it as much?
And we have standard kind of cleaning schedules, but it's been so crazy now, everything's running constantly, that we haven't had to worry about it. But you still need to do your basic cleanings and keeping things in good shape so that you don't have problems. So just to head off, especially now with issues, I've heard a lot of people that have had issues getting technicians in to get machines fixed. So you really don't want to get yourself into a situation that your machine goes down and you can't get somebody in to travel in to fix it. So
we might
running all the time.
Gotcha. On the material side, one of the questions that Ross and I got asked in the previous discussion was about wiping materials down in advance of printing. I know that there's a lot of quality control in place for the roll manufacturing on the Mactac side, but are you wiping your materials down prior to printing, or are you just loading it up on the printer and hitting go?
Load and go.
Load and go.
We load and go. The only thing we do is when we laminate things, we do rolls aren't so much, but if we're doing rigid, we have cleaning rags, not rags, but like these sticks that they've created to just pick up static lint and things from being laminated in between the substrates. But roll, it comes out of the box, goes on the printer, goes to the laminator, gets laminated, and then goes to get cut on a router or a plotter cutter, and as fast as humanly possible, it seems lately. So,
speaking of laminate, Ross, sorry, I'm kind of speaking for you a little bit on this one, but one of the big topics we had at the last one was whether or not to laminate your goods. Are you finding that you're using more or less laminate with the high productivity you're doing?
Me?
Yeah.
We laminate everything, it seems. We even laminate direct prints for the most part. We found a really cost-effective solution through Ross to basically take a lot of our signs that are outdoors so that you get better UV protection and longer lifespan, less scratching like you get from pretty much any direct print technology. So it seems like we do more laminating now than we've ever done before. Almost everything that's going out of here right now. Obviously, yard signs, for just cheap yard signs, it's not laminated, but anything that you want to get more lifespan out of. People want to invest in something, even if it's a few 50 cents a square foot more or $1 a square foot more to laminate it, to protect it so they get longer life out of it. Going from maybe 1 to 3 years to 3 to 5 years is a much better, cost over, for people, much better investment in their money.
Yeah, Ross, I'm assuming you guys.
For sure. And then we're seeing a lot of customers that are doing that, especially in a wipe down environment when you're looking to keep the images clean. you don't want to grind any of the dirt into just the face of the print. So a right laminate will give you up to 2 times the life expectancy of the ink that's being used. So we have a lot of good customers like Repros that are taking advantage of that technology. Again, not only for pressure sensitive vinyl, but for flexible magnets and for direct to board stock, laminates can be used to protect those images, and especially in a wipe down environment.
Yeah, and on the ink side, although most of our inks are high durable with multiple cleanings, there are, for floor graphics specifically, we recommend laminate just because of the wear down, especially with the disinfecting that's going on. Even though most of the inks are going to be petrochemical resistant, you can wipe them down with alcohol or cleaning agents. They're meant to be wiped down less than more. And right now, I think with the high cleaning that's going on and the disinfectant question that we posed just a few minutes ago, it's probably a good practice to laminate as much as possible. So it's good to hear that our experience is the same across all three perspectives here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Mike, you bring up one other point too. Floor graphics really do require a laminate for slip resistance. If you've got an indoor application, you've got a lot more options. But for outdoor and following the latest ANSI standards, you need something that will meet or exceed the National Floor Institute standard for slip resistance in a wet environment. So we've been able to help customers like Lou with solutions like that. But again, a good, better, best is available for indoor dry. And we always recommend having a slip resistant laminate to protect your customers, protect your business, protect your image. The other thing is that there are products out there that have been developed that may not need a laminate because of the way that the material has been manufactured. And that's a product that we have called Street Trex, which is a safety grit coated outdoor print media. But that one does not need the laminate because it's all built into the construction of the material.
Interesting. Well, we'll open up the floor, I guess, for some questions here in just a second. We've gotten a couple of good ones in the chat window. Hopefully, we've been able to address those. For those of you that are on the phone right now, again, thank you for joining us for this discussion. We'd like to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So hopefully, it doesn't become a free-for-all here. But if you've got a question that you'd like to pose, feel free to chime in or put it in the chat window if you have access to a computer. That would be preferred. But if you don't have access to a computer, please feel free to jump in and ask your question. We'll be glad to address it. While we're waiting for anybody to interrupt, one of the other topics that came up in our discussion this week was the financial side of things. From our end, Mimaki has put a considerable amount of investment in making sure that our customers or prospective customers have the ability to adjust their business. So again, inkjet printing is not a one-size-fits-all application. So you may have a solvent printer today and realize you probably could benefit to have a UV printer. And this is kind of a difficult time to add a piece of equipment. So we've bought down leasing rates. We've got payment relief programs in place and things like that. But one of the things that came up, and I think on the Mactac side, you guys are doing short run rolls to help with costs, correct?
Correct. So we have materials for fleet graphics where we're doing 75-foot rolls of cast material with matching cast over laminates. We're doing the Street Trex product in 50-foot lengths. We're also doing products such as window perf. With 70-30 window perf, a customer can buy a 25-foot roll of that material. So we encourage folks to reach out to us and let us help you with getting the right product for the right application, and hopefully save you some cash out front as you get through this.
On the Lou, on the business side, you had mentioned in previous discussion that some of the government relief programs like the CARES Act, where they're providing paycheck relief and things like that, you mentioned that might create a challenge for you from a tax burden and may be a good year to invest in certain pieces of equipment that you may have put off. Is that a perspective that you still hold today?
Yeah, I mean the paycheck check protection plan, we're involved with that. And of course, the more calls I'm on, the more I find out that no one really knows what it is or how it's going to look from the government standpoint, much less from an accounting standpoint. Obviously, cash flow is a little tighter given the situation, and sales are not where they were because of certain types of industries you've been in. But if the Paycheck Protection Plan turns out to be what it looks like it's going to be, and some of the money is granted, it could all of a sudden put you in a position where you are all of a sudden very profitable, even though you may not have a lot of cash in the bank. In which case, when this first started, we had some equipment we were looking to purchase, and we said, well, with this going on, we're not going to do it this year. Our year ends in June. But all of a sudden now we're finding if we have 2 months of paycheck relief with some of the things we're doing, we may have to invest in equipment for the deduction on a lease so it doesn't impact our cash flow. So we're all of a sudden really saying if this really happens and this kind of money becomes a grant that was a cost before, you could either have to write a big fat check to the federal government or have to figure out, buy some gear so that you can keep from having to write that tax check. So I'm not sure what the total answer is, but from everything I've talked to with some of the accounting people I've talked to, it's something we're really seriously expecting in the next couple of months we're going to have to figure out. So
yeah, I mean, the government's printing money, but it's got to come back to the government at some point in order to try and balance the books. Although we've managed under a significant deficit for many years, that's the same perspective that we have on this end. So we've actually seen an increase in printer sales, believe it or not. Although the printer sales have been significantly different than they were a few months ago, we've seen an increase in printer sales in areas that haven't been typically very popular in the sign and graphic space, like dye sublimation, for example. We've seen some there. A lot of solvent printers, because that's a very well-known and tried and true technology, and maybe a business owner had diversified and moved away from a solvent printer that they had previously, and now understanding that this situation and how inexpensive it is to get into those pieces of equipment, have added one as a redundancy factor and as a way to manage costs. UV curable as well. So it's been interesting to see the companies that have invested in equipment. And I would imagine there's probably some other areas too, like bucket trucks and other things that you could probably invest in right now, just to make sure that you have that tax shelter. Ross, what are you all seeing on your end in terms of capital expenditures? And I know material typically gets kind of looped into that.
Yeah, I really don't have a good answer for that. I'm not in the middle of the R&D and cap operation budget meetings that are going on right now. Of course, in a situation where you may not have as much cash coming in, you have to look at your inventories and look at the products that are moving fast and the ones that aren't, and making sure you're stocking the right materials. So we are doing that. But as far as the cap expense part of the ledger, I don't have a good answer for you right now on that.
What about your distribution? We share a lot of distributors. In a lot of cases, they'll put together a package that includes materials. Are you seeing, like a lease program with material packages built in so that you can kind of manage your costs over a duration of time?
I've not seen that right now. I believe as more folks open up and have more business that they're going to be able to use that equipment and material, I think those opportunities will start surfacing. Mm-hmm. But I think until right about now, folks like Lou weren't going to run out and buy the equipment and the media until they had a better feel for what type of customers were going to be coming back, and what type of materials they'd need to be running.
Yeah. Well, we did get a question while we're speaking to Ross. One of the questions was the floor graphics that you brought up earlier. That was Street Trex. What's the official name for that, and how can customers find out more about that?
So Street Trex is a 13.5 mil thick safety grit coated print media that's opaque, has a very aggressive and fluid adhesive that will work into rough concrete and asphalt. The product number is an STX1528P. Comes in 50-foot or 100-foot rolls that are 54 inches wide, and your local stocking Mactac distributor can help you with getting a price and availability for that product. That product is also solvent, eco-solvent, latex, UV, UV gel, and UV flatbed printable.
Excellent. So kind of start wrapping things up a little bit. We don't want to go too far over our time. We know that everybody out there is trying to run their businesses right now as well. There are a couple things that we can use. We've gotten a nice message here that there's some publications available by OSHA to make sure that you're compliant. I think on our end, on the manufacturing side, we do expect some additional inspections from government entities like OSHA or from even CDC. Lou, are you getting a feeling on your end that you may have to have inspections more often as things kind of loosen up, or do you feel the local governments are going to come in and review your practices, or have you been reviewed so far?
I haven't, but they've had plenty of stories in the paper, and I know other businesses that have. It seems that in Ohio, most of the problem comes if you don't take it seriously and someone mentions it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been some discussions about, competitors going after each other and causing trouble for each other, but we're pretty confident that based on the rules and what the state has, we have all the things in place, and we've developed a environment that meets the expectations of a safer work environment given this, COVID situation. So I don't know. We're not opening our doors. We're not pushing people to our front doors. I know a lot of people are. Most of our sales are coming through our sales force or through communications and emails and phone calls. So we're not really a walk-in shop per se, where you have a lot of people walking in, but giving consideration and keeping open with your employees so no one gets stressed out and calls and the health department saying you're not a safe environment, or making sure you're providing them with all the safety stuff is kind of the key.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've gotten most of the questions answered. From our end, I think we'll start to kind of wrap things up. I wanted to share a little piece of information from the Mimaki side, and it certainly is relative to both Ross and to Lou. Mimaki has started a way for print service providers like Lou and Repros, if they don't have the amount of business coming in that they really need, or they're looking for a way to connect with local businesses. To Lou's point earlier, somebody might need a sign today because they're going to try and open tomorrow or Monday. The hardest challenge right now is that everybody's going online. There's a lot of Google searches, but sometimes the Google search doesn't provide the most effective response for someone that's really close to you, being you, the print service provider. So if you go to mimakiusa.com, we've got a special COVID page, and within that umbrella, we've got a special program called Together We Print. We're offering free marketing for any of the print service providers, regardless of what product that you have. It doesn't matter if you are or have been a Mimaki customer. What we're trying to do is provide an outlet for you to provide some level of understanding to the market of what you can do in your shop, maybe the hours that you're open, what if you're doing personal protective equipment, for example. So if you go to mimakiusa.com, if you look for the Together We Print banner, you can follow it in, and you can have some free marketing from our end. One of the things that we're doing to help promote, and then we'll also do some social media and some ad placements to try and help promote you. So just a basic information, and it will allow a customer possibly in your area to reach out to you with the information that you're providing, and hopefully provide some business for you so that you can continue to get the Mactac materials and the ink that you need flowing through your machines, and that you can keep your doors open and take care of your family. So again, from the Mimaki side, to start wrapping up on our end, we really appreciate everybody in the printing community. We appreciate everything that you're doing. Lou, we certainly appreciate your perspective, and we really appreciate you joining us today. We know that your time is very valuable. Ross, it's been fantastic to do these webinars with you and the Mactac team. We really appreciate everything from your end. So from the Mimaki side, I'd like to just say thank you to everybody again. And, hopefully we can provide some additional resources on our website should you need assistance. So again, MimakiUSA.com. Ross, I'll turn it over to you for your final words here.
Absolutely, and again, thank you, Mike, and for the opportunity to work with you and Lisa on these last 3 get-togethers. It's been a fantastic experience, and it was a lot of fun. Lou, you're a great business partner. We very much appreciate you and your team, and we're here for you in the long run, as well as we are for the print community. Mactac has a dedicated sales force of district sales managers that are trained and are professional in what they do that can help our customers with product selection, application questions, and make it easier to jump into some of these new challenges that are coming in. There's a lot of resources on Mactac.com, information on wide format products, including technical advisory sheets that share best practices of installing floor graphics or wall graphics or window graphics. And we have quite a few videos on YouTube showing folks how to install applications. I sent Lou a link in regards to a video that we did at a local Stowe Kent bowling alley 4 years ago, where we applied floor graphic for sidewalks, for carpet, and for tile. It's still relative today in regards to cleaning and applying those graphics. So take advantage of the resources that are out there for you, and please give us a call. We're here to help.
And Lou, our special guest, thank you again for joining us. Please feel free to speak to your peers here out in the printing community.
Yeah, and Lisa, Mike, and Ross, thanks so much. I mean, this is the critical thing, and I've been in this business since '03, when we just had, I think when we first got our JV3850, and been running this side of the business, and having relationships with the access to experts at Mactac and Mimaki and places like that is critical. Having an event like this to learn, because very often the people in the channel don't know what they used to do. They used to be the experts you went to, and now you really have to talk to the people that know the product. So being part of this, I think, is key for anybody, because there's plenty of opportunity out there for all of us to be successful.
Yeah, well said, well said. Well, to that point, Lou, you touched on one final thing that I'd like to leave with parting. We are experts in our respective fields. Please go to the Mactac website for any information about films and best practices, the adhesives that are on there. Please visit MimakiUSA.com for any information that you need. We're setting up resources for best practices for cleaning, everything else. You can review these webinars, any resources that you need from any of us, and then even some of your peers. Don't be afraid to reach out to even some of your competitors in the market. You'll find that, like Lou, they're very warm and receptive. There's plenty of business to go around, especially right now. The graphics communication side of things is vital for the economy to get back up and running. So please just be connected, be safe. And on that, I'd like to wrap up our discussion and call it a day.
Let's call it a wrap.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great afternoon.